Mist breathes over white headstones like a low tide of ghosts, the sun turning the tomb into a blade that glitters and does not forgive. Flags talk in sharp syllables above the hill. Flags snapping. Boots strike stone with the metronome of reverence. 21 counted heartbeats laid down in leather. Boots striking stone. The cool Virginia air tastes of autumn leaves and the faint, honest thread of gun oil. And the polished marble throws back every ray of light until the world feels scrubbed clean of noise. The widow in black stands just beyond the rough velvet rope, its braid biting her gloved palm as if to steady her. Her name is Mary Whitfield, 5'5", mid-40s, skin pale where the veil doesn't cover, eyes that look like they've been rinsed in salt. In her other hand rests a folded flag, small against the ache of it. Beside her, a boy of 9, her grandson, clutches the flag's corner and looks up, throat working, trying not to swallow too loudly inside all this silence. The veteran in the wheelchair, Arthur Hale, 78, cane across his lap, leans forward, his shoulders narrow but his gaze blade sharp. He knows the weight of a hush kept for the dead. Sergeant Daniel Cross, 6'2", lean as a discipline sharpened over years, turns on the black mat, rifle snapping. The rifle in his hands gleams like an oath you could see. Sunlight races the length of the bayonet and carves a thin seam of fire across the crowd. He does not look left. He does not look right. He is a sentry who sees past the living and into the distance that belongs to the unknown. Murmurs make small ripples at the rope, the kind that shame themselves and die. Murmurs thinning. Then the first laugh arrives. It pitches wrong in the air, too loud for this place, flat and slick like a boot on spilled syrup. 2 men lean against the rope farther down, one stocky, 5'9", sleeves shoved to elbows, one lanky, 6 feet, grin too wide. The sour breath of cheap beer walks ahead of their words. "Nice little play," the stocky one says, eyes on the widow's hands. "All this stomping for a photo." The boy flinches and squeezes the flag. Mary whispers without turning her head, "Just breathe." Her lace glove twists, the braid of the rope scraping back. The smell of cut grass lifts and fades, wind slipping through arches. Sergeant Cross steps, boots striking stone. The heel kisses granite with the finality of a gavel. The 21 paces fold into stillness as he halts before the tomb, shadow lengthening over the base until it fuses with the words that answer nobody, known but to God. For a breath he looks soldered to the stone, man and inscription one carved thing. The lanky heckler snickers, louder now, and nudges the stocky one. "Look how shiny the boots are," he says. "Betty polishes them more than he thinks." He cups his hands and barks toward the widow. "Hey, save some tears for the camera." The velvet rope grows a new set of knuckles as hands tighten, rope fibers creaking. Arthur Hale taps his cane to the marble once, a sound crisp as a yes. Cane tick. "Not here," he says, voice like gravel rolled in iron. The sound doesn't ask permission, it remembers it. Sergeant Cross pivots, steel in his grip steady as breath, rifle snapping. Brass glints, seams knife straight, crisp uniform pressing his frame into the geometry of ritual. He keeps the tomb at the center, the crowd at the edge. He is a lighthouse that does not follow ships. Mary takes the first step with the wreath. It wobbles because her hand wobbles, the boy's fingers still fastened to the flag. The petals catch light and look too bright for grief. "Please," the boy whispers, eyes on the guard. "Make them stop." "They will," Mary says, though her voice is a thread she can hardly hold. The stocky man leans in, forearms whitening on the rope. "Hey, lady," he says, the beer sour and hot in his words. "Does the crying help, or do they charge extra for that?" A breath leaves the crowd like a tide pulled hard. Crowd gasps low. A teacher lifts her hand to her mouth. The sun throws an extra inch of glare at the bayonet, and it throws it back in a needle of white. Sergeant Cross does not speak. He never does. He is the shape the vow takes when words would make it smaller. But the plaza needs thunder. He plants the rifle's butt to marble, rifle butt cracking like thunder. The crack travels the steps, the arches, the rows, rolling through stone to names no one can pronounce, to names no one can find. Flags jolt in the gust the sound seems to summon, flags snapping. The lanky man laughs, but it skitters at the edges. "Ooh," he says, shrugging in mock fear. "Statue got feelings." The stocky one smirks at Mary and the boy. "Come on, sweetheart. Cry louder. Maybe he'll hear you underground." Arthur Hale's jaw locks. "That's enough," he says. He does not raise his voice. He doesn't need to. The boy's shoulders hunch around the flag, as if trying to wrap himself in its geometry. The scent of gun oil lifts faint and clean, a reminder that hands have cared for this steel in the dark, alone, while the city slept. Sergeant Cross's silence densifies until it feels like a wall laid across the air. He turns again, a perfect hinge. Rifle snapping. His shadow climbs the tomb and wells to the carved words. For a heartbeat, the cross of light on the bayonet looks like a cross of fire held over the mat. "Look at him," the lanky one says to his friend. "Won't even look at us. Man in a costume scared to talk." "Not a costume," Arthur breathes to them, to the rope, to the dead. "An oath." The wreath reaches the stone. Mary's hand is steady now because it has to be. The boy lets go long enough to touch the marble, a fingertip on the cold, polished world that took what it took and gave a memory back. His small voice slips out, uninvited but true. "Thank you," he says to the stone. "Sir?" The stocky heckler hears that and grins, ugly as rust. He throws his chin up and upends the bottle enough that a thin thread of beer slaps the pavement at his shoes. Liquid splattering. "You hear that?" he crows. "Talking to rocks. He died for—" Arthur Hale's cane strikes marble. Both hands on the handle now. Cane thundering once. "Hold your tongue!" The stocky man leans farther over the rope until it bites his forearms. "Or what?" he says, eyes on Mary. Not on the cane, not on the guard. "I'm just saying what everybody knows." The plaza draws in breath and holds it. The boy reaches again for the flag. Mary's shoulder trembles and then stops. The wind turns the headstones into a field of little mirrors. Wind through arches. Boots answer with a verdict. Boots striking stone. Sergeant Cross halts, the bayonet catching a sun that seems to burn hotter for a second, as if to brand the moment. Arthur's voice lowers into the place where prayer lives. "Son," he says to the heckler without looking at him, "you are out of your depth." The lanky man laughs like a hinge in need of oil. "Depth? It's a park." The stocky one stares at Mary, at the boy, and raises his voice so it can climb over the rope. His face hardens into something proud of being cruel. He wants a wound he can see. "Your husband died for nothing," he shouts. Silence doesn't break. It drops like a stone. The words are still hanging in the marble air, jagged and obscene. "Your husband died for nothing." A gasp slices through the crowd, sharp as glass. Collective gasp. Mothers clutch their children tighter. Veterans clench canes until wood groans. And phones that had been raised to capture reverence now lower, ashamed to witness blasphemy. The velvet rope quivers under white-knuckled fists. The smell of beer, sour and acrid, drifts heavy on the cool noon breeze. Mary Whitfield's knees weaken. She clutches the folded flag tighter, its stiff fabric digging into her lace gloves. Her son's small hand grabs her sleeve, his eyes wide with terror and confusion. "Mama," he whispers. His voice is fragile, too fragile for this place. Sergeant Daniel Cross halts mid-step, boot slam echoing. His heel strikes marble with a finality that cracks the silence wide open. He pivots with mechanical precision, rifle snapping across his chest. Rifle snapping. The bayonet catches the noonday sun and throws it back in a blinding blade of fire, forcing the hecklers to squint against its glare. His shadow wells to the tomb behind him, swallowed into the carved words known but to God. The hecklers laugh nervously, their bravado wobbling. The stocky one sneers, trying to claw back ground. "What's he gonna do? March us to death?" He stomps his foot, mocking the cadence. Sloppy shoe scrape. The lanky one cackles, his laughter sour, spilling across sacred stone. The crowd stirs, murmurs growing like a storm behind the rope, crowd murmuring rising. The veteran Arthur Hale leans forward in his wheelchair, both hands gripping his cane. His eyes burn with the fury of a man who's buried too many brothers. His voice rumbles low, carried on gravel. You don't know how close you are to thunder. Mary lowers her head, tears burning down her cheeks. The boy buries his face against her dress, the folded flag pressed between them. She whispers into his hair, broken but fierce. Don't look at them. Look at him. Look at the guard. Sergeant Cross breathes once, deep and steady. The rifle in his hands is not a weapon tonight. It is a vow carved into steel. His gloves creak faintly as his grip tightens. His boots spread slightly, anchoring into marble as if welding himself to sacred ground. And then he delivers judgment. The rifle butt slams into stone, rifle butt booming against marble. The crack detonates across the plaza, echoing under the arches, rolling over the fields of headstones like thunder. Birds scatter from the trees, wings beating frantically against the sudden roar. Flags snap violently in the wind, as if saluting the echo, flags whipping hard. The crowd gasps again, some crying out, some saluting, some clutching hearts. Crowd gasp and cries. Phones shake in trembling hands. Even the hecklers flinch, their laughter faltering under the weight of that single act. The veteran salutes, arms shaking but high, tears slipping down his cheeks. His voice is soft but steady. That's not a soldier showing off. That's the dead speaking through him. The hecklers look smaller now, pale under the noon sun, but their pride clings stubbornly. The stocky one snarls, louder, desperate. He's just a statue. That silence means nothing. The boy pulls back from Mary's embrace, his eyes wet but clear. He watches the sentinel's shadow stretch across the tomb. Mama, he whispers, it does mean something. I can feel it. Mary sobs, pressing her lips to her son's hair. She knows he's right. Everyone in the plaza knows he's right. Legend crystallizes in that instant. The guards standing in blazing sunlight, rifle anchored like a cross, shadow welded into the tomb, silence roaring louder than hate, while a widow clutches her flag and a child whispers truth no grown man could deny. The lanky heckler wipes sweat from his brow, eyes darting. His voice shakes, but arrogance forces it out. If he's so tough, he jeers, make him speak. The words drop like stones into the silence. Echo of words fading. The crowd stiffens, horrified. The veteran shakes his head slowly, muttering, God help you. The guard does not move. His silence thickens, suffocating, heavier than any command. The bayonet burns brighter, the sun itself drawn into steel. And the part ends on the sharp edge of that threat, the demand for the guard to speak, an invitation for thunder the hecklers cannot withstand. Afternoon shadows creep long, across the plaza, stretching thin fingers from the white headstones toward the flame. The sun sinks lower, its light bleeding orange against the marble. Floodlights hum to life with a faint buzz, floodlights buzzing, throwing sharp beams across the black mat. The tomb glows ghostly white, too bright, too eternal. The crowd is hushed, rattled by what has already happened. Mothers clutch children, veterans grip canes, young men bow their heads. Even the air feels heavier, the cool Virginia breeze pressing instead of easing. The smell of autumn leaves is sharper now, mixing with the bitter tang of beer spilled from the hecklers' bottles. The guard stands anchored, bayonet blazing under the new light, shadow welded once more to the tomb's inscription. His cadence is paused, every muscle locked in geometry so sharp it feels carved, not lived. Silence rules again, but it is fragile, thin as glass, trembling with the weight of what was just said. And then arrogance snaps it. The stocky heckler leans farther over the rope, sneer curled tight across his face. Statue don't scare me, he mutters, voice rising so all can hear. He jerks his chin toward Mary, the widow in black. Cry louder, lady. Maybe your husband'll hear you in the dirt. The words cut sharper than bayonet steel. Gasps rip through the crowd. Collective gasp. The boy flinches like he's been struck, his small hands clutching the folded flag so tight his knuckles pale. Mary's breath catches in her throat, a sob rising but swallowed, trapped in grief turned to iron. Her lace glove twists until threads snap. Arthur Hale, the veteran in the wheelchair, slams his cane into the marble, cane cracking stone. His voice rips out, hoarse but strong. "That's enough. You're crossing the line." His salute hand trembles, raised high in defiance, his eyes burning. But the heckler grins wider, ugly pride swelling. He throws a glance at his lanky friend, who laughs nervously, feeding off the poison. "What line?" the stocky one jeers. Then he does it. He lifts one boot, sloppy, careless, and steps across the velvet rope. Rope snapping taut, then slack. The crowd erupts in gasps and murmurs, half cries, half prayers. Crowd shouting, murmuring. Phones rise again, hands trembling as they record. A woman cries, "No!" Another whispers fiercely, "Don't let the boy see this." The heckler stumbles onto the black mat, sacred ground no foot but the sentinel's is meant to touch. His shadow sprawls across it, an intrusion that makes even the floodlights feel dimmer. He sways forward, laughter jagged. "See? Nothing happens." He points directly at Mary, eyes cruel. "Go on, cry harder, entertain us." The boy lets out a broken sound, half sob, half plea. "Mama, please, make him stop." Mary pulls him tight, pressing the flag between them, whispering prayers through shaking lips. Sergeant Cross pivots, rifle snapping sharp. The sound slams into the plaza like a lightning strike. His eyes lock forward, unmoving, but his entire body turns stormward. The bayonet catches the floodlight, glowing white-hot, reflecting the heckler's smirk back at him like a distorted mirror. Legend crystallizes in that moment. The sentinel framed in blinding light, rifle locked across his chest, bayonet burning judgment, shadow fused with eternity, while a drunken heckler staggers on the sacred mat, sneering in the glow of a silence that is about to break. The veteran's voice rasps, louder now, cracking with rage and awe. "Son, you've stepped where thunder sleeps, and thunder is waking." The crowd is silent again, but it's a silence of fear, of waiting for something irreversible. A child whimpers. A woman prays. The sound of flags snapping above grows louder, angrier. Flags snapping hard in wind. The heckler tries to sneer, but sweat beads on his brow, gleaming in the floodlight. His words shake but still come. "Come on, soldier, speak, say something. Show them you're more than boots." The guard steps forward, boot slam echoing. The sound cracks the stone, rattles the rope, makes the heckler stumble back. Silence thickens until it feels like iron poured into air. The boy lifts his head, tears streaking down his cheeks, and whispers in awe, "Mama, the soldier's shadow is bigger than him." Mary presses her lips to his hair, sobbing silently. The heckler freezes, face pale in the light, his sneer cracking. He tries one more desperate laugh, but it dies in his throat. The bayonet's glow blinds him, the silence crushes him, and for the first time he looks afraid. The guard towers above him, silent, shadow stretched eternal, storm in his stillness. And the part ends balanced on the edge of thunder. The guard stepping forward, silence sharpened to a blade, the heckler swaying under its weight, the crowd waiting for the inevitable strike. Twilight deepens into night. The sky is a bruise of purple and black, the first stars cutting through. Floodlights blaze, bathing the plaza in hard white. Floodlights buzzing. The tomb glows brighter than bone, its face etched in firelight. The eternal flame hisses steady at its side, a tongue of orange that will not bow. Flame hissing. The heckler stands on the sacred mat, sweat shining on his brow. His arrogance shakes now, but he doubles down, desperate to reclaim ground. His lanky friend shouts from behind the rope, voice cracked with fear and bravado. "Show him you're not afraid." The crowd hisses in horror, a ripple of shame and anger breaking reverence. Crowd murmuring, gasps. Mary clutches her grandson tighter, the folded flag pressed between them. Her tears are silent rivers across her cheeks, but her spine is iron. She whispers against his hair, voice trembling. "Don't look at them, baby. Look at the soldier." The boy turns, eyes wide, watching the sentinel. Sergeant Daniel Cross is immovable, 6'2" of silence and discipline. Shadow, welded to the tomb. His rifle gleams, bayonet catching floodlight and throwing it back as a blade of silver. His gloves creak faintly, the fabric stretched taut around steel. His breath is slow, steady, as though the storm waits on his command. The heckler staggers closer, laughter turned into venom. He points at Mary, his finger sharp, his words a spear. Cry louder, widow. Maybe your dead husband will rise up and thank us for the show. Gasps tear through the crowd. Collective gasp. A woman cries out, "Stop him!" The veteran slams his cane into marble, cane cracking stone. His voice gravel ground into steel. Enough! His salute rises again, trembling but high, eyes aflame with fury. And then, in one reckless moment, the heckler lunges. He stumbles forward, arms outstretched, his body weaving from drink and rage. His hand swipes toward Mary, toward the boy, toward the flag she clutches like breath itself. The crowd screams. Crowd screaming. Mothers shield children. Phones fall from hands. Reverence shatters into panic. The velvet rope shakes as people pull back in horror. But the guard does not wait. In an instant, silence becomes force. His boot pivots, heel cracking marble with thunder. Boot slam echoing. The rifle whips sideways. Rifle snapping sharp, bayonet slicing air in a flash of white fire. In less than a breath, the heckler's arm is seized, twisted, his balance ripped away. His body slams onto the marble with a crack that silences, even screams. Body crashing stone. The sound echoes across the plaza, rolling under the arches, racing through the white rose beyond. Reverence returns like a storm, crashing down on the crowd. The heckler sprawls flat, palms scraped raw, cheek pressed against cold stone. His breath comes in ragged bursts, stinking of beer and shame. His lanky friend stumbles back from the rope, face pale, his grin long gone. The guard towers above, rifle already snapped back to chest in flawless precision. Rifle snapping back. His shadow blankets the man on the ground, swallowing him into the tomb's eternal outline. His silence roars louder than 1,000 commands. Mary shields her grandson with both arms, trembling, tears spilling freely. The boy peeks through, eyes wet, voice breaking. "Mama, he didn't even speak, but he saved us." The veteran salutes high, tears burning hot on his weathered cheeks. His voice, hoarse but proud, cuts through the silence. That's what it means to guard the dead, and the living too. Security arrives at last, rushing forward, gripping the heckler by his arms. They haul him up, his legs buckling, his face pale and broken. His bravado is gone, stripped away by silence and steel. The crowd parts, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Heads bowed as he is dragged into the shadows. His friend slinks back, swallowed by shame. The guard does not move to watch. He does not acknowledge victory. His eyes remain fixed forward, locked on eternity. He pivots, again resuming cadence. Boots clicking in rhythm. 21 steps. Turn. Rifle snapping like thunder. Eternal restored. Legend burns in that moment. Widow shielding child. Veteran saluting with tears. A heckler broken on the stone. And the sentinel, shadow welded to tomb, marching as if nothing had disturbed the vow. The plaza itself seems to breathe again, reverence drawn back into lungs and hearts. And the park closes on revelation. The boy's small voice, trembling but true, whispering into the silence. He's more than a soldier. He's forever. Night lays its velvet cloak over Arlington. Stars glitter sharp above the rows of headstones, each one a shard of memory fixed in stone. The wind is cooler now, carrying the smell of fallen leaves and the faint sweetness of grass cut earlier in the day. Wind-sweeping leaves. The eternal flame hisses steady, orange light licking the night, its smoke curling like a ribbon that refuses to fade. Flame hissing steady. The hecklers are gone, dragged into shadow, their noise extinguished. What remains is the silence that endured, the silence that defended. It is thicker now, not brittle but chosen, given by every man, woman, and child in the plaza. Reverence is not commanded tonight. Reverence is offered. Mary Whitfield stands by the tomb, her black veil trembling in the breeze. Tears run freely now, but they are not the broken sobs of earlier. These are tears that cleanse, tears drawn out by the sight of something greater than cruelty. In her arms, her grandson clutches the folded flag against his chest. His face is streaked with tears, but his chin is raised. His wide eyes never leave the guard. Sergeant Daniel Cross marches, boots clicking in cadence. His stride is as precise as it was at dawn. 21 steps, heel to toe, pivot, rifle snapping across his chest. Rifle snapping. His uniform is immaculate, seams knife-sharp, brass glinting like small suns even under floodlight. His shadow stretches long, welded still to the tomb. He does not acknowledge what just happened. He cannot. The vow demands constancy, not victory. Colonel Mason, head of the ceremonial staff, steps forward. He is a tall man, 6 feet even, his presence calm but commanding. His voice rises into the night, steady as the flame. What you have witnessed is not theater. It is not performance. It is silence as shield, discipline as sword. The guard speaks not with words, but with silence that cannot be mocked. The crowd stirs, moved, humbled. Veterans rise shakily to salute, some leaning on canes, some wiping tears from their weathered cheeks. Mothers hold children tighter. A woman bows her head, whispering a prayer. Phones lower, forgotten. For once, nothing but the human voice and the flame exist in this moment. Colonel Mason continues, his tone like scripture. This silence guards not stone, but sacrifice. It defends not names, but the absence of names, the ones lost forever. And tonight, when mockery tried to pierce that silence, it fell. Mary presses her lips to her grandson's hair. Do you hear that, baby? That's your granddaddy's silence, still speaking. The boy nods slowly, his small face wet with tears. He steps out from her arms, trembling, flag still pressed against him. He straightens as much as his small frame allows. His hand rises, awkward but brave, fingers pressed to brow in salute. The guard pivots at that exact moment, boots striking hard. The bayonet catches the floodlight and burns white, a blade of silver drawn against the night. His rifle snaps to chest, rifle snapping, cadence unbroken, eternal. He does not turn toward the child, but something passes through the silence, a reply beyond words. Legend etches itself into the plaza then. A boy saluting, flag against his chest, tears streaking down his cheeks. A widow behind him, veiled and trembling but proud. A veteran saluting high, cane across his lap, and towering before them all, the sentinel marching in white light, his shadow welded forever to the tomb. The crowd begins to rise one by one. Men and women lift their hands in salute, others bow heads, some place hands over hearts. Silence deepens, thick as a vow, uniting strangers into witnesses of something eternal. For a moment, everyone in the plaza is one body, one voice of respect. The distant sound of a bugle cuts through the night. Bugle echoing, its notes drift over the cemetery, weaving with the steady cadence of boots. It is not part of the ceremony, not scheduled. It is the wind carrying echoes from another funeral somewhere across the grounds. Yet it fits, as if summoned for this exact instant. The guard continues his march. His boots are steady thunder, the bugle a morning hymn, the flame an undying witness. Together they weave the sound of eternity. Mary drops to her knees, veil slipping, face in her hands. Her grandson stays standing, saluting as tears fall unchecked. Arthur Hale lowers his salute only to wipe his cheeks, his voice breaking as he whispers, "Forever. That's what this is." Colonel Mason bows his head. The crowd lowers theirs. Reverence has consumed mockery. Silence has swallowed arrogance. Sacrifice has silenced noise. And the narration seals the night like scripture. Mockery fell. Reverence rose. Noise tried to shatter silence, but silence stood eternal. A widow wept, a child saluted, a veteran prayed, and the guard marched still. At Arlington, the boots do not just strike stone. They strike the heart. They strike memory. They strike forever. And when silence speaks, the world listens in tears. If this story moved you, let it travel farther. Share it so others remember that silence is not weakness, but the voice of sacrifice. Subscribe for more untold stories of duty, honor, and the guards who march where time itself stops. And leave your reflection in the comments, because every word you add joins the eternal vow to never forget the unknown.